Hey there, amigos! Welcome back to another episode where we dive into the wild world of international trade and the unexpected twists it can take. It seems like the land of the free is feeling a little less generous these days. The United States, known for its open markets and free trade policies, is tightening its grip. Uncle Sam just slapped a hefty 25% tariff on imports from Mexico. That's a significant hike, and it's sending shockwaves through the trade community. That's right, a quarter of the price tacked on. Imagine going to your favorite store and suddenly everything costs 25% more. Ouch! The stock market threw a tantrum faster than a toddler denied a juice box, with investors scrambling to make sense of the new economic landscape. It was like watching a tequila-fueled fiesta go horribly wrong, with stocks plunging and market confidence taking a nosedive. This whole thing started because some folks up north think Mexico is being a bit too generous with something else, fentanyl. The opioid crisis has been a major issue, and fingers are being pointed south of the border. They claim it's flooding across the border, and well, let's just say they're not talking about a delicious wave of Mexican vanilla. The accusations are serious and the response has been swift. Of course, Mexico is saying, hey, we're trying our best here. The Mexican government insists they are doing everything they can to control the flow of illegal substances. But the damage is done, and now everyone's bracing for impact. Businesses on both sides of the border are feeling the strain, and consumers are left wondering how this will affect their wallets. Empty store shelves, higher prices, and economic uncertainty are just some of the immediate effects. Economists are debating the long-term consequences. But one thing is clear, the trade relationship between the US and Mexico is under serious strain. As negotiations continue, there's hope that cooler heads will prevail, and a more balanced approach can be found. After all, the economies of both nations are deeply intertwined, and cooperation is key to mutual prosperity. In the end, it's about finding common ground and working together to solve complex issues. Stay tuned as we keep you updated on this evolving story. Until next time, amigos, keep your eyes on the horizon and your hopes high. Now, Mexico isn't just going to sit there and take it. They're gearing up for a good old-fashioned trade war throwdown, and they've got some serious ammo. First up, they might just turn off the oil tap. That's right, the black gold that keeps America's engines humming could become a whole lot harder to come by. And if that doesn't send a message, Mexico's got another trick up its sleeve: taxes. They're talking about slapping extra charges on all those car parts they send north. See, Mexico is a vital supplier for the American auto industry, so basically they're holding America's car production hostage. It's enough to make you shout, "Ay caramba!" You see, the US and Mexico, they're like that old married couple who bicker constantly, but deep down, they need each other. Their economies are intertwined like a plate of perfectly cooked chilaquiles. Mexico provides the US with affordable labor and a market for its goods, while the US provides investment and, well, consumes like a champ. They even have this fancy agreement called the USMCA, which is like their prenup, outlining the rules of their economic love affair. But these tariffs? They're like a giant piñata full of trouble, threatening to smash this delicate balance to smithereens. Now, Mexico, they're not eager to start a trade war. They'd rather talk it out over some tequila and tacos. They've got their diplomats working overtime trying to smooth things over with their northern counterparts. They're even planning a phone call between the big guys themselves, hoping for a presidential heart-to-heart. But don't mistake their willingness to talk for weakness. Mexico is making it crystal clear. If these tariffs aren't lifted, they're ready to throw down. They've got their retaliatory measures locked and loaded, just waiting for the signal. It's a delicate dance between diplomacy and defiance, and the whole world is watching to see who blinks first. Oil and autos in the crosshairs supply chain shakedown. Let's talk specifics, shall we? Remember how Mexico's a major oil supplier to the US? Well, those tariffs could mean trouble at the pump. We're talking higher gas prices, folks, and nobody wants to pay more for their commute, especially when it cuts into their burrito budget. And then there's the auto industry. Mexico sends tons of car parts north of the border. Those tariffs, they could disrupt the entire supply chain, meaning car production slows down, prices go up, and suddenly, that new pickup truck is looking about as attainable as a winning lottery ticket. The American dream, derailed, economic fallout in the US? The American dream, a concept that has driven generations to strive for a better life, is now facing unprecedented challenges. The economic fallout in the US is not just a series of unfortunate events, it's a complex web of issues that could have long-lasting impacts on the nation's future. Now, some folks might say, so what? Mexico's problem, not ours. But this kind of thinking is short-sighted. The interconnectedness of global economies means that what happens in one country can have ripple effects across the world. Ignoring these signs could lead to bigger problems down the line. But hold your horses, buckaroo. The reality is that the US is not immune to these economic tremors. In fact, the repercussions could be felt much closer to home than many might expect. This trade war could backfire on the US faster than a poorly aimed firework. Trade wars often start with the intention of protecting domestic industries, but they can quickly spiral out of control, leading to unintended consequences that hurt the very people they were meant to help. Remember those factory closures and job losses everyone's always worried about? These aren't just hypothetical scenarios. The longer this trade war drags on, the more likely it is that we'll see real tangible impacts on American workers and their families. Yeah, those could become a reality if this thing drags on. The economic landscape is fragile, and prolonged uncertainty can lead to a loss of consumer and business confidence, making recovery even more difficult. And let's not forget about inflation. When the cost of goods and services starts to rise, it affects everyone, from the average consumer to large corporations. Inflation can erode purchasing power, making it harder for families to make ends meet. When prices for everyday goods start climbing faster than a gecko on a hot summer day, nobody wins. The strain on household budgets can lead to decreased spending, which in turn can slow down economic growth. Suddenly, that American dream of a white picket fence and a two-car garage starts feeling about as stable as a house of cards in a hurricane. The dream that once seemed so attainable is now at risk, and the path to achieving it is fraught with obstacles. Political chess game leaders, leverage, and public opinion. Now, you didn't think this was just about economics, did you? This trade war is a political chess match, with each side trying to outmaneuver the other. In the US, some folks are cheering on the tariffs, seeing them as a way to protect American jobs and stick it to those south of the border. Meanwhile, in Mexico, the government is rallying its people, portraying the US as the bully and themselves as the valiant defenders of free trade. It's a classic case of us versus them, with each side using the dispute to score political points and rally their base. The clock is ticking. Negotiation or trade war? The tension between the United States and Mexico has reached a fever pitch. With every passing second, the stakes grow higher, and the world watches with bated breath. So, what's next in this high-stakes trade tango? Will cooler heads prevail, or are we on the brink of an economic showdown that could reshape the global market? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The decisions made in the coming days could have far-reaching consequences, not just for the US and Mexico, but for economies around the world. The coming days are crucial. Every moment counts as negotiators scramble to find common ground. The clock is ticking, and the pressure is mounting. Will the US and Mexico come to their senses, put down their trade weapons, and hammer out a deal? Or will they let pride and politics drive them to a stalemate? Or are we headed for a full-blown trade war, complete with economic casualties and enough bad blood to make a telenovela writer blush? The ramifications of such a conflict could be devastating, leading to job losses, market instability, and a ripple effect felt across continents. One thing's for sure, the stakes are high, the tension is palpable, and the entire world is watching to see who blinks first. The outcome of these negotiations could set a precedent for future trade deals and international relations. And that, my friends, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me, NAFTA, USMCA. These agreements have shaped the economic landscape for years, and their future hangs in the balance. Look, the point is, this is a big deal. The decisions made now will echo through history, influencing trade policies and economic strategies for generations to come. The world is watching, and the clock is ticking.